Hello friends, welcome to our next video, and this is your host Vishal. So today we're going to show you how to calculate marketing expenses and how to calculate your digital marketing budget. And we're also going to look into your events, conferences budget, your content marketing budget, and so on. And I'm also going to show you how all of that ties together to give you your overall master marketing budget for each month, each quarter, and each year. And this is the template that I have used for years whenever I have done marketing budget for my own team. So to give you a quick overview, the first tab is the master marketing budget, where all the other tabs, which are the individual ones, so like for paid media, branding, admin, events, there will be like content and so on, where all those individual marketing channels are feeding the data into. So you can keep track of overall where you are standing in any particular time of time. So the way this thing is laid out is for each month, it shows you how much is your allocated budget and how much have you actually spent, which is really important because then you can keep track of how much money you have left. And end of every quarter, so as you keep updating data here, this will be automatically updated and it shows you what your budget is and how much you actually spend and how much is actually left. So this way, if you have some initiatives that you didn't plan for but you still know you have money, you can actually go and plan those initiatives because you will know you have money left. So the way this thing is laid out is we have brand money for branding, you have paid media, we have events, we have content. So for this video, we're going to look into the paid media, and all the other ones are very similarly laid out. So if you understand one, you'll be able to walk through the rest of them. So let's look for your digital marketing or your paid marketing media. So the way this thing is laid out is there are different sections where you're actually spending your money in. So the way I have is, so we had non-affiliate paid promotion. So we'll do a lot of like sponsored articles, sponsored newsletters. We'll do affiliate sponsorships. That could be like podcasts, association sponsorships, and so on. So these could be whatever you are doing for your particular business. And let's say if I want to spend for sponsored articles, I want to spend $500 per month. So I'll come in, add here $500 per month for sponsored articles. And for sponsored newsletters, I'm also going to do $500. So I'm just going to copy and paste for the other months as well. So in Feb, I also want to spend the same money. In March, I want to spend the same amount of money. As you can see, when I've entered the money for how much I want to budgeting for each month, the Q1, it added up all these amounts and shows me that my budget for sponsored articles for Q1 is $1,500, which is 500 plus 500 plus 500. And I haven't added any amount for actual, like how much I've actually spent so far. So my amount left is 1,500, which basically will be this minus this is equal to 1,500. So as you go through each month, so let's say in month of January, you say, oh, I was thinking of spending 500, but I only ended up spending 300. So as you can see, it will show you that you have actually spent total $300. So your remaining amount left is 1,200. And maybe in month number 2 in February, since you have $200 additional instead of 500, you probably ended up spending 700, right? So even though your budget was less in month of February, but since you didn't spend all of it, you're still on track over here, and you're like in March, okay, I'm going to do $500 over here. So overall, you can see you budgeted 15, you actually spent 15, and the amount left is 0. And the same thing for sponsored newsletters. So these are the categories we created for our business. So for advertising, we had Facebook ads, Twitter ads, LinkedIn, Google. We had a lot of ABM efforts. So we have promotional efforts, direct mailings, all that. So you can add, subtract whatever categories you are using for your particular business and create those rows here and add all the numbers you want. So let's just, for this one, let's finish all the way through for this one. So social sponsorships, I was spending about $1,000 a month. And for podcasts was not that much, it was still 500. So I'm going to take these, Control C, and I'm going to do Control V here because that's how much I wanted to spend every month. And for Facebook, Twitter ads, this one was actually we wanted to spend a lot more. So we were doing $10,000 for our, actually not 10,000, we were doing $3,000 for our Facebook ads, $3,000 for our Twitter ads, LinkedIn was 10,000, and then Google ads we're doing about 5. Right? So this was the one much spend was for each month for my total ads. So I was doing very consistently the same amount. So right now, since I have using the same amount, so I just use the formula automatically added for rest of the months, which is easy way to do because if you're not changing your expenses every month, so each column will automatically fill out for the rest of your month. And for ABM promotional efforts, we were doing about $5,000 a month. And for direct mailing, it was also about $5,000 a month, right? So this gives you overall expenses. As you can see for my Q1, my budget for Q1 is $100,000. I've only spent 1,500 because I added like an amount here. As you can see, for these I haven't updated any of those, but as you start adding amount here, this will change, and it still shows me by the end of Q1 I still have $99,000 left. So this is the way that this thing works. So as you can have, you add more data for for April, May, June, you can keep adding it here, and towards the end you can see how much is your total amount for the whole year. And this one, as you can see, the budget for, and this is just the paid media budget for 2023, 379. You spend 1,500 and you still have 378 left. And there's another way to look at this data as well. You can scroll down, and this gives you a quick summary for each one of these headings. So as you can see, so this is non-affiliate, affiliate, advertising, and ABM. So these are 4 main categories, and you can actually see how much budget you allocated per category for each one of those, how much have you actually spent on each one of those, and how much is the amount left. So this is a different way of doing this exact same thing. So feel free, you can add whatever you want in these categories. I would highly recommend is just kind of copying this row and then pasting this row another way, because then you will copy all the formulas. If you just create a row and you just write by yourself, then you'll have to make sure that the formulas are in sync and they're attached to this tab, and they're also feeding data to your master tab. So easiest way, copy this row and then insert this row right here. So then all the formulas get copied. So this is where you will look at paid media. Another one we really looked into that's a little bit different is the events and conferences. So depending on what kind of business you have, you could be doing a lot of events and conferences, especially now with COVID not being that active per se, that a lot more conferences are happening. So we distributed over here into like different conferences. So we made some estimates. So like our $500 was a round trip flight, $200 per night, $25 per day for meal, $1,500 for like shipping your conference gear. So these could be your booth, your marketing collateral, whatever you need to do. And this is where we put some of the major categories for each conference. So you can have your conference name here, so then you can keep track where the money goes. So these were exhibiting costs, supplies and equipment, sponsorships, shipping cost, setup and hotel and travel, and how many attendees were going for each one of them. So you want to make sure you're on the budget. So your exhibiting costs, you can depend on whatever it is. So let's say it was $10,000 for this one. Your supplies, equipment, and a lot of time, these conferences, you have to buy the carpet, you have to buy the electricity, you have to buy the internet. So those ends up being additional costs. So let's say $500 here. If you're doing any sponsorships for the conference, you can add there. You're doing a free giveaway. Maybe a free iPad. So what are the cost of that? What is the cost of shipping the product and your marketing collateral, shipping your booth, all that over there? And shipping cost is expensive, man. Like we used to do like $5,000 just to shipping stuff back and forth. And the setup cost is typically included in the conference cost. But let's say if there's like additional one, I'll just put $500 here. And then hotel, travel expenses, and so on and so forth. So that's maybe another, right? Let's say $1,000, right? So this one you can add your budget for each conference, and you can do that for all the conferences you're actually going to be looking into attending this particular year. And we actually used another category called swag inventory, because this was very consistent, because we knew that we were going on one conference per year. So we added whatever we needed to take for that conference, and swag giveaways, which are the different products that actually had our logos on it. So we had water bottles, notebooks, tote bags, pens, webcam protector, employee swag. So whatever things you're adding, things you are doing for your particular one, you can actually add those and subtract as you see fit what their cost are. And a lot of times these are just one-time costs, because you just buy how much you need per quarter, and then you just kind of see by the end of every quarter or end of every 3 conferences, for example, how much is left or how much additional you need to order. Booth storage. So if you're doing conferences, there's a place where you're going to store the booth. Like how much is it going to cost you to store the booth? So the monthly storage cost typically runs between $500 to $1,000, depending on what the size is. What is your asset management program? And this is when every time you want to ship your booth, is the company who's storing your booth going to take a look at all of your assets, that make sure that they are sending the right assets to the right conference? Because what we had was we had different type of conferences. Some were national, some were just regional. So for regional conferences, we only wanted to send like a smaller booth with just few items. National ones, we wanted to send the whole shebang. But we needed somebody where we were storing the booth to come take a look and actually send that stuff accordingly. So we had asset management program with them that they will take a look based on whatever our request was and only sent the desired items. So that was about like $1,000 per month, those. And then updated booth graphics, right? These things change pretty much, I would say, on a quarterly basis, if not more. Like if you're adding new product features, and if you're doing certain ABM campaign and you're doing a particular conference with respect to the ABM campaign and you want to highlight those type of customers at those type of cities, so you can add and subtract. So whatever your booth graphics needs to be updated, you can actually add, like a blanket cost of like $1,000 a month, right? So you can keep adding whatever you need, and this will keep you your total booth. And then on the bottom, as you can see, this is a year-to-date summary, which gives you conference 1, 2, and 3. What is the inventory cost total, and this gives you your total budget here. So since I've only added stuff for conference 1, it only shows me 19, but depending on how many conferences you're going, right? So we were going between 12 to 15 conferences per year. So our biggest budget was conferences. It was almost close to $500,000 was being spent every year on conferences. Right, so this is the way you do for conference. And then content marketing budget, very similar. So we had like software cost, services, freelancers. So what's included in your content marketing? Like, are you using what type of software, like graphic design software, or are you actually bringing in an actual graphic designer? You have a keyword research tool for your search engine optimization. Are you looking, using a link building services? Are you using a web developer? So depending on whatever your cost structure is and whatever action items are you taking, so you can add and subtract the content marketing budget over here and so on and so forth. And the last, and as we go along, this is the product marketing budget. So what's done in product marketing? You do paid research, you do competitive analysis, if you're running focus groups, if you want to do product testing, what are you doing there? So user testing, you have testing software solutions and so on. So they have launch events. And for product marketing budget, you can take a look. So product marketing has like different categories. So if you're doing product market fit, you're doing product testing, your product releases, and some miscellaneous stuff. So to check your product marketing fit, you're doing paid research, competitive analysis, focus groups. For product testing, are you using some user testing sessions? Are you using user testing software? So you can add, subtract all the cost over here. And on the bottom, like always, it gives you a quick summary. So you can just, as you can see, you got a pretty good idea of how this thing is laid out and how different budgets are. So this is for admin costs. And I always like to keep the admin costs a little bit separate because I can add stuff over here on what am I using for events and trainings and team building activities, things like that. Right? So a lot of stuff that go over here. And there's also a category to add your computer and hardware software costs here. But I like to keep these computer hardware software costs to each one of the sections depending on wherever it's applicable. So it keeps me an idea for which software I'm using for product marketing, or which software am I using for paid media ads, or which one am I using for my content marketing. So you can do it either way, whichever makes you more comfortable. And as you can see, we're adding and subtracting data on different sections. As you can see, the paid media, we added a bunch of stuff and information over here as you were creating this mock-up. And if you come to master slide here, as you can see for the, here we go. So for the master tab, you can see paid media, it automatically updated all the data over here, and you can see how much have you used per quarter, where you actually are. So this is the one, whenever I fill information in on different ones, this is the one I will go over with our CEO to walk him through, first to give him like an overall idea of where we're spending the marketing money. So he can get an idea where we're spending on paid or content on product. And then if he wants to deep dive into each one of these, we can actually go into each one of those tabs and walk him through that where that money is being spent on paid or events or conferences and so on and so forth. So this gives you a pretty good idea. And also there's a graphical representation. So as you start adding data over here, we only added data for 2 tabs, right? So we did paid media and we did events and conferences. So when you come down, so this little graphical representation kind of shows you where your money is spent. So since we added like some rough estimates here, you can see the majority of the money is in paid media, and then some of the money, is around 5.1%, is actually spent in other sections. So this gives you overall view as well. And this is another way to look at expense summary, like every month, how much are you spending? This is kind of a summary of a summary, I would say. So you can see how your marketing expenses are going through. But I love this cumulative budget and cumulative spend, because this kind of keeps me honest and keeps me on track, like where exactly I am month after month, quarter after quarter. So rather than going to each one of details, I can quickly come here, quickly glance, see where am I on track, or am I off budget, under budget, over budget, so I can kind of fix things accordingly. So this is a great way to kind of create your own marketing budget with each of these tabs, and I'll drop in a link in the bottom so you can take a look and you can download this template on your own. So this will actually help you get started. So one thing I would recommend is download the template and just play around with it. And so you can get comfortable how each data is feeding, like each cell or in each one of these tabs is feeding the data into the master one. So you have a better understanding of how to manipulate it or add and subtract and edit it for your purposes. So this is the way you can calculate marketing costs, you can calculate your marketing expenses, and you can also deep dive into, calculate digital marketing budget or your paid marketing budget, events, and so forth. So if any questions, please drop them in the comment section, and looking forward to seeing you in next video. Thank you very much. Have a great day.